What happens when a CEO trades his suit for an apron and finds out his food is being hidden from customers? Isaiah Abbott hadn't worked a floor shift in over 3 years, not since his café chain grew from a single storefront in his hometown to 6 bustling locations across the state. He still remembered every square inch of that first café, the scratched counters, the smell of burnt espresso, the thrill when the first regular came through the door. Now, with over 200 employees and a small corporate team handling operations, Isaiah was removed from the day-to-day. Too removed. Lately, the numbers at the 4th location Midtown weren't adding up. Food waste was high, customer retention was dipping, and the online reviews had shifted from warm to cold. But what really pushed Isaiah to act was what his warehouse manager told him over lunch. Midtown ordered 2 times the amount of croissants last week, yet their sales don't match. Something's off. So Isaiah made the call. He dyed his graying beard dark brown, got a fresh haircut, and borrowed a pair of thick glasses from his brother. His name tag read Illy. He applied for a 3-day kitchen trainee position through a temp agency he quietly owned. Since each location did their own hiring and none of the Midtown staff had ever met him in person, it made sense they wouldn't recognize him. And the disguise helped. He arrived at 7 a.m. sharp on Monday. "Hey. Illy right?" a tall woman with tired eyes and a tight ponytail asked as he stepped into the back kitchen. "Yeah, first day," Isaiah said, adjusting his cap. "That's me, Rachel, kitchen lead. You'll be shadowing me. Let's get started." The cafe was small but busy. The Midtown location was just off a college campus, so traffic was steady. Isaiah kept his head down and followed Rachel's instructions. She was fast, focused, and clearly overwhelmed. "You're short-staffed?" he asked while prepping sandwich ingredients. Rachel didn't look up. "Been like this for weeks. 2 people quit after the last manager walked. Now it's just me, Layla on register, and Marcus up front. Managers never here in the mornings." Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "Who's the manager?" Darren comes in mid-shift, leaves early. Thinks we're all lazy. By 10 a.m., the cafe was packed. Isaiah stayed in the back, helping Rachel juggle orders. She was doing the work of 3 people with barely a word of complaint. At one point, she burned a tray of breakfast sandwiches. "Damn it," she muttered, pulling them from the oven. Just then, a sharp voice cut through the noise. "What happened here?" A man in a pressed polo and designer shoes walked in. Late 30s, confident, too confident, burned the top row, Rachel said, wiping her face. "That's like $20 in product." He turned to Isaiah. "You the new guy?" "Yeah, Illy." "Listen, Illy," Darren said, stepping closer. "We don't serve overcooked food here. We don't toss it either." Rachel looked confused. "You want us to serve it?" "No," Darren said with a fake smile. "You hide it, wrap it, stick it under the prep fridge, out of sight. We'll toss it after shift. If the district rep shows up and sees that much waste logged, we get flagged." Isaiah felt his hands clench. Rachel hesitated. "We're not supposed to lie about waste." "Then don't lie, just don't write it down." Isaiah wanted to say something, but he couldn't blow his cover yet. Later that day, while Darren was out front, Isaiah asked Rachel quietly. "That happen often?" She sighed. "Every week. He tells us to hide stuff. If we push back, he cuts our hours." Layla stopped arguing months ago. That night, Isaiah sat in his car staring at the wheel. His heart was heavy. He built this place to be honest, to serve good food and take care of people. Now his own store was hiding burnt sandwiches under the fridge to dodge accountability. And the worst part, the people suffering weren't the customers. It was Rachel and the others doing everything they could just to keep things moving. He looked at his reflection in the rear view. The glasses, the dyed beard, the fake name. Tomorrow he'd be back, and things were going to change. The second morning started colder, with a sharp wind cutting through the alley behind the cafe where deliveries came in. Isaiah arrived early again, watching the back door from the sidewalk until Rachel let him in, her hoodie zipped up high and eyes heavy with fatigue. "Morning, Illy," she muttered, flipping on the prep station lights. "Morning." He stepped inside, already tying his apron. You get any sleep? 3 hours. Had to cover closing shift. Marcus called out and Darren said he couldn't find coverage. Isaiah kept his face neutral, even as his jaw tightened. He followed her to the back as she started pulling trays of prepped pastry dough from the walk-in cooler. "Look," she said quietly, glancing toward the door, "I wasn't sure if you'd come back after yesterday. Most temps bail, I get it. This place wears people down." "I'm not going anywhere," Isaiah said. "Not yet." By 6:30, the café was already humming. Layla arrived, eyes down, earbuds in, barely speaking as she clocked in. Isaiah noticed the way she flinched every time the door chimed. She didn't seem afraid, just bracing for something. At 7:15, Darren walked in with a coffee from a different café in hand. "Rachel," he called. "That panini grill's still acting up." "It's working. I cleaned the coils and reset the fuse last night." "So it's fixed because I told you to fix it," he said, walking past her without stopping. He gestured toward Isaiah. "You new guy, get the blueberry muffins out of the freezer. We're testing a new thaw time." Isaiah moved quickly. In the back freezer, he found 2 boxes labeled with the company's supplier sticker and a third that looked different, no label, just a black marker slash across the top. He took all 3 out. As he brought them to the prep table, Rachel looked up. "Where'd you find that one?" she asked, pointing to the unlabeled box, "in the freezer with the others." "That's not ours," she said, frowning. "We don't order from any local bakeries anymore." Before Isaiah could respond, Darren came back in. "Don't worry about that box," he said, too quickly. "That's a side project I'm testing. Just use the branded ones." Isaiah noted the tension in Rachel's face. She glanced at the box again, then turned away. Later that morning, Isaiah and Rachel worked shoulder to shoulder as a rush hit. Orders came in non-stop, and the ticket printer rattled like a broken fan. Isaiah handled the oven while Rachel assembled sandwiches, both of them moving without pause. Then, at 9:30, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and a brown coat stepped inside. He took a seat near the window and pulled out a tablet. Isaiah didn't recognize him, but Rachel stiffened. "Regional oversight," she murmured. Isaiah watched Darren approach the man with a bright, performative energy. "Mr. Delaney, didn't know you were stopping by." "You got my email last week," the man said without looking up. "Ha, right, just didn't expect you so early." Isaiah kept working but watched out of the corner of his eye. Darren led Mr. Delaney behind the counter, pointing out equipment, rattling off numbers. Rachel leaned in quietly. "He'll keep him out of the kitchen. Always does. Doesn't want anyone seeing how we actually prep." A minute later, Layla came in from the front, looking rattled. "Rachel," she said, voice low. "That guy with the beard. He just asked for the gluten-free banana bread. I told him we didn't have any today, but Darren told me this morning we weren't selling it anymore." Rachel blinked. "What, we still get it on the truck?" "Exactly. But he told me it's not worth the shelf space and to stop offering it." Rachel wiped her hands and walked to the fridge. She opened the bottom drawer and pulled out 3 individually wrapped banana breads. "Still here," she muttered. Isaiah watched as she walked out to the customer, handed him one free of charge, and walked back without speaking to Darren. Her hands were shaking. They had barely caught their breath when a loud crash rang out from the front. A tray of iced drinks had fallen, shattering 2 of the plastic cups and sending a flood of liquid across the floor. Layla looked frozen, eyes wide, standing over the mess. Darren appeared instantly. "What the hell happened?" Sorry, it slipped." "My hand was wet." "You've worked here for 8 months, Layla. You know better." Isaiah stepped forward. "She's been handling orders non-stop since we opened." Darren turned slowly. "You're not in charge here." "No," Isaiah said calmly, "but I've been watching." "She's juggling more than one person should." Darren gave him a cold look. "You don't speak to me like that. You're a temp. Temps don't get opinions." Isaiah stepped back, keeping his expression neutral, but inside something had shifted. At noon, Rachel pulled Isaiah aside near the back cooler. "You're not just a temp, are you?" He looked at her, heart pounding. "You watch more than anyone I've worked with. You ask the right questions. And yesterday after what Darren said about the waste, I saw your face. You weren't shocked like someone new. You were angry like someone who built this. Isaiah hesitated, then nodded once. I can't say more yet, but I need you to trust me. Rachel looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded and walked back to the line. By mid-afternoon, Mr. Delaney had left. Darren disappeared an hour later without a word. The café was quieter and Isaiah took the opportunity to check the walk-in. He found the mystery box again. This time he opened it. Inside were pastries in plain wax paper, no labels, no supplier markings. He took one out, sniffed it. It smelled off like it had been thawed and refrozen. Rachel walked in and stopped when she saw him. He's selling those under the table. I heard him tell Marcus he makes extra cash on the side. Buys them cheap from some guy downtown and sells them as special orders. Isaiah stared at the pastry in his hand. That's a health code violation, Rachel nodded, and if someone gets sick, it falls on the store, not him. Isaiah put the pastry back and closed the box. He didn't speak for a long moment, then his voice was steady. I need you to keep doing what you're doing, just a little longer. Rachel didn't ask questions this time. That night, Isaiah drove to the corporate office and let himself in. He printed the store's waste logs from the last month and compared them to the supply orders. The numbers didn't just not match, they were manipulated. Waste reduced by nearly half, while supply orders climbed. Darren had been falsifying reports for weeks. He opened an email to HR and copied in legal. Tomorrow he would return to Midtown, and he wouldn't be wearing glasses. The third day began without disguise. Isaiah arrived 15 minutes before opening, dressed in a plain navy button-up and dark jeans. He stepped through the same back entrance he'd used the previous mornings, but this time he wasn't pretending. Rachel was already prepping eggs at the grill station, her movements slower than usual. She glanced up, expecting Illy, and froze when she saw him. Isaiah gave her a quiet nod. Morning, Rachel. She didn't say anything at first, then her eyes widened slightly as she connected the dots. Yeah. He stepped forward, voice steady. Isaiah Abbott, founder. Her hand dropped from the spatula as she stared at him. I needed to see it for myself, he said. You've been holding this place together, and I've seen exactly how much weight that's put on you. She exhaled slowly, then looked behind him toward the hallway. Darren's not in yet. I know, he won't be, she blinked. He's off. No. He's done. Rachel didn't respond, but her shoulders eased slightly as she returned to her station. Isaiah walked toward the front, where Layla was wiping down the pastry case. She didn't notice him until he stepped beside her. Good morning, he said gently. She looked up, confused at first. Her eyes darted to his shirt, then his face. Wait. I'm not Ali, he said. My name's Isaiah. I own this company. She stepped back instinctively, unsure of what to say. You're not in trouble, he assured her. I'm here because I've seen what you've been dealing with. You've been working without support, without recognition, and under someone who should never have been in charge. Layla's face stayed guarded, but she didn't move away again. Where's Marcus? Isaiah asked. He opens the dining area. Usually comes in through the customer entrance. Isaiah nodded and walked toward the front doors, unlocking them himself just as Marcus strolled in, earbuds around his neck and a half-eaten breakfast wrap in hand. He froze when he saw who was standing there. Morning. Isaiah didn't smile. Marcus, let's speak inside. The young man followed him behind the counter, eyes darting toward Rachel and Layla, who both kept their heads down. Isaiah led him to the small office in the rear. He closed the door behind them. I'm Isaiah Abbott, he said, founder of this company. I've spent the last 2 days working here under a different name. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know. That's the point. I wasn't here to be known. I was here to see what goes on when no one's looking. And what I saw was a manager running this team into the ground and a culture that let it happen. Marcus swallowed. I just do what I'm told. You followed Darren's orders. Including hiding expired product, lying to customers, and staying silent when your coworkers were overworked. I didn't want to get involved in anything. You were already involved. The moment you stayed quiet, you were part of it. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. You'll finish today's shift. After that, your employment here ends. You'll receive your final paycheck by the end of the week. We're not waiting for this to get worse. Marcus didn't argue. He nodded once and left the room. Isaiah stepped out a minute later and called Rachel and Layla to the front. With Darren and Marcus gone, he said, we're short 2 people. I've already called in a district team to help cover the rest of today and tomorrow. You 2 will run the floor, but you won't do it alone. Rachel nodded, not with relief but with acceptance. She was used to stepping in. Isaiah turned to Layla. After your shift, I want you to meet with an HR rep. We're putting a performance documentation system in place. You'll get proper metrics, feedback, and support, and starting next week, you'll have a say in scheduling and daily operations. She looked stunned. Wait, I'm just a barista. You've been doing half the manager's job already. It's time that counted for something. He turned to Rachel. You're staying on, but not in the same role. You'll be interim store lead until we hire a new GM with full pay adjustment and weekly check-ins with me or someone on my team. Rachel didn't say anything. Her hands were still. I know it's not instant change, Isaiah said, but it starts today. She nodded once, then returned to the back without a word. By late morning, 2 district supervisors arrived, Nina and Tyrell both in uniform, both ready to work. They jumped in seamlessly. Nina took over register training while Tyrell handled product inventory and waste tracking. For the first time in days, the back kitchen was calm. Still, Isaiah walked it carefully. He opened every cooler, logged every expiration date, and started a full review of the inventory system. Several of the unlabeled items had already been disposed of per his instructions earlier that morning. What remained was cataloged and reported. At noon, a delivery truck pulled in. Isaiah met the driver himself. You're early, he noted. They told me this location needed a restock bump, the driver said. 4th time this month. Isaiah looked at the manifest. The extra crates included pastries that weren't on the menu. Darren had been ordering excess under old item numbers and selling them off menu without receipts, without reports. It made sense now. The waste numbers were low because the product was never officially sold, just pocketed. Isaiah signed the manifest, then added a note to flag the account for internal audit. Later that afternoon, Isaiah brought the team together for a break, something they hadn't had in days. They sat at the far table in the corner, sipping water and quietly eating sandwiches from the prep line. I don't expect you to trust that everything's fixed, Isaiah said, but I want you to know that we're not walking away from this. What happened here won't be buried. We're using today's findings to rework training, accountability, and support systems across all locations. Rachel leaned forward. What about stores like this one that get ignored until something breaks? Isaiah met her eyes. We're changing that. We're rolling out a new reporting chain, anonymous channels for escalation, and we're pulling location audits every quarter unannounced. Layla looked down at her cup. Will any of this actually make a difference? Isaiah gave her a moment before replying. Only if we keep listening, and if people like both of you start getting the authority to shape how things work. Neither of them spoke again, but the room felt different, not fixed, but no longer stuck. Isaiah stayed until close. He helped Rachel clean the grill station, scrubbed the back sink, and restocked paper goods for the morning shift. When the doors finally locked behind them, he turned to both of them. I'm not going back to the office tomorrow, he said. I'll be at the Southview location. After that, Central, I'm working every floor this month, no disguise, no titles. Rachel looked at him, tired but clearer than before. Then maybe, she said, some of this might finally stick. He gave her a nod. Then he turned and walked into the night, apron still folded under his arm, wondering how many more kitchens would need this kind of light. By the following Monday, the Midtown Café opened under new conditions. The front window still fogged up from the morning ovens, and the bell above the door still jingled with every customer but behind the counter. Everything had changed. Isaiah arrived half an hour before opening, not as a mystery figure, not with a name tag and not to observe. This time, he was there to brief the incoming interim manager personally. She showed up right on time. "Monica," she said, introducing herself with a firm handshake. "District support assigned me here for the next 6 weeks." Isaiah led her to the back as Rachel prepped for the morning, now with a second kitchen hand assigned from another store. Layla was already setting up the register, moving with more steadiness than before. Monica listened as Isaiah walked her through the audit results, the procedural changes, and the staffing gaps that still needed to be addressed. She asked direct questions. She didn't take notes she didn't need to. She'd been a store lead for over 7 years, and it showed. Once the team was in place, Isaiah stepped aside. Monica took the floor not with a speech but with action. She walked the kitchen, checked the inventory, and adjusted the prep list based on the morning's reservations. Then she pulled Rachel aside. "I'm not here to take over your rhythm," she said. "You've kept this place running under a load that should have broken it, but from now on, you won't be doing it without backup." Rachel nodded once, then returned to the line without comment. Mid-morning traffic picked up slower than usual. Word about recent changes must have trickled out. Some customers hesitated at the door, unsure if the place was still under the same leadership. But once inside, they noticed the difference. Orders were called out clearly, prep lines moved without bottlenecking, and no one was snapping under pressure. It wasn't perfect, how could it be, after what they'd endured, but it held. Isaiah stayed out of the way, observing from a side table. Rachel had declined the apron he offered her earlier. She wore her own, same one she'd always used. That was fine with him. He wasn't there to put his stamp on the recovery, just to make sure it had room to happen. At noon, Monica pulled Layla to the side near the pastry case. "I've reviewed your training logs. You're cleared to cross-train on inventory and scheduling support. If you're interested, we'll start next week." Layla hesitated. "I don't know if I'm ready for that. You've been doing half of it already. The only difference now is this time it counts. It's just hard to believe this isn't temporary." "I don't do temporary, and I don't hand out titles to check boxes. You'll earn every inch, but you won't be ignored." Layla nodded slowly. She didn't smile, but she didn't withdraw either. It was a step. Isaiah checked the staffing board before he left. 2 new hires were scheduled to start onboarding by Thursday. Both had prior café experience, and both were being trained under a revised mentorship system. No more throwing people into the line unprepared. He stepped outside briefly and returned with a tablet containing the updated policy handbook. In the back office, he pulled Rachel in for a final sit-down. "We've removed the old waste tracking software," he said. "All stores are moving to a digital log system that timestamps entries. No manual edits, no hiding losses." Rachel leaned forward, reviewing the tablet. "What about reporting concerns? Is it still routed through the store manager?" "No, you'll have direct access to regional oversight, anonymous if needed. Nothing goes through a single gatekeeper anymore." She scrolled through the document, scanning for weak spots. She didn't find many. "I've trained under 3 managers," she said, "each one worse than the last. You know what the problem was?" Isaiah waited. "They all thought this job was about performance. But it's not. It's about pressure, how you handle it, where you place it. Darren, he pushed it down, made us carry it. You want this place to last, make sure it flows up." Isaiah nodded once. "I will." She set the tablet down. "Then you're not wasting my time." He left the office and walked the line one last time, noting the small changes already in motion. The temperature logs were being filled in real time. The prep list was visible and updated. No one was barking orders. No one was hiding trays under the fridge. Before leaving, he made one last stop at the register. "Layla," he said, "I've arranged for next week's early shifts to be split. You'll get a full day off midweek, and coverage has already been arranged." She looked at him, uncertain. "I didn't ask for that. You shouldn't have to." He stepped back, watching as she greeted the next customer with more presence than he'd seen before. Outside, the air was cooler. He paused just long enough to glance back through the front window. Rachel was calling out an order. Monica was reviewing a delivery manifest. Layla was helping a student count exact change, nothing dramatic, nothing showy, but it was right. By the end of the day, HR had completed Darren's formal dismissal. His behavior wasn't just negligence, it crossed ethical lines, and his file reflected that. He would not return to any role within the company, and his actions were reported to the vendor network to prevent future manipulation. Marcus received his final paycheck. No recommendations were issued. He had chosen convenience over conscience and bore the consequence quietly. As for Isaiah, he didn't return to Midtown the rest of the week. He didn't need to. But he did stop by Southview, then Central, just as he said he would. No disguises, no theatrics, just a founder walking the floor, and when employees saw him now, they didn't lower their heads or glance away. They nodded. They asked questions. They made suggestions because the message was clear. He wasn't watching from a distance anymore. He was in it, with them, where he should have been all along.